This little cutting is a descendant of the Endicott pear tree, believed the oldest living cultivated fruit tree in North America. The mother tree was planted in 1630 by John Endicott, governor of the Massachusetts Bay Colony in Danvers, Massachusetts. This cutting was donated to CSSDAR by DAR member Enicott, a descendant of John Endicott and member of the El Redondo chapter in SDAR. It is being dedicated this day, June 6, 2020. Sometime between 1630 and 1649, John Endicott planted a pear tree at his estate in Danvers, Massachusetts. He hoped it would long outlive him, a wish that the tree far surpassed despite harsh winters, hurricanes, earthquakes, urban sprawl, and a near-fatal encounter with vandals. Around 1628, John Endicott sailed from England to Salem, Massachusetts. Shortly after his arrival, he became the governor of the Massachusetts Bay Colony, a position he held for 16 years. A zealous and at times a hot-headed Puritan, Endicott went on to be regarded as one of the fathers of New England. Beyond his historic role as early settler and long-serving governor, Endicott was also known as the first man to own a sundial in America, as well as for introducing the ox-eye daisy to the colonies. He also drew much interest and admiration for his fruit trees, many of which were likely shipped to Massachusetts from England shortly after Endicott's own arrival. On July 3, 1632, the General Court of Massachusetts Bay granted Endicott 300 acres of land in Danvers. He soon set out about planting more fruit trees, including this now famous pear tree. There is some discussion regarding the planting date. The descendants of John Endicott placed the planting of the specific tree at 1630, the date we use for this recognition. The pear tree had its fair share of admirers during the course of the next couple of centuries. It drew praise from the noted botanists and was featured in various botanical works and magazines. Even former President John Adams tasted its fruit and took some clippings. But with the ups came plenty of downs, and the tree's growing fame couldn't prevent periods of peril brought about by neglect, pests, and the serious threat of hurricanes. The tree was damaged 4 times by major hurricanes in 1804, 1815, 1843, and 1934, but somehow stayed standing. Its truest, biggest threat, however, was from the unprecedented or unappreciative humans. On July 27, 1964, vandals cut off the tree's branches and much of its trunk with hacksaws. When they were done, just 6 feet of the trunk remained. Stripped of branches, leaves, and fruit, the tree was a sorry sight indeed. But shoots appeared just several weeks later, and the defiant tree grew again. Today, the Endicott pear tree stands surrounded by a metal fence a few feet down an embankment near a nondescript business park. Apart from the protective fence, the tree's continued existence has also been bolstered by its newfound status as a national landmark, granted in 2011. A historical marker standing above the tree states, "The tree was planted by John Endicott, first governor of the Massachusetts Bay Company. The tree is a living link to the earliest European settlers of our nation. Endicott was granted 300 acres where he settled and farmed, calling his property Orchard Farm." There are so many ironic and iconic things about the planting and the dedication of this little tree. One tenet of our society is historic preservation, and potting this offshoot of something planted 390 years ago serves to preserve its legacy. The Endicott Pear tree was commemorated in a ceremony on Arbor Day in 1890, the same year our society was formed, using this poem from Lucy Larcom. Who would not be proud to say of the deed he does today, if it be a worthy shoot from an honorable root, that when centuries had passed, bloom and fruitage still would last, still a growing, breathing thing, autumn, with the heart of spring. And the theme we were going to use to be using for this spring councils, when Susan would have been laying out plans for the Broderick administration, was to have been new beginnings. It was important to me that this little cutting, already growing to its identity as a pear tree, be dedicated as a new beginning, to conclude the legacy of the Oakley Project and the Lancaster administration, and signify the beginning of the Broderick administration. The tree was rooted in the soil of Massachusetts, just as Susan's life story began there as well. And shall we add just another ironic notion? Susan's hairpin ties her time as a cardiac surgeon, a surgical nurse, and the original Endicott Pear tree was planted on the grounds now owned by the Massachusetts General Hospital North Shore Center for Outpatient Care there in Danvers. This summer, there are 2 other cuttings being dedicated in national parks. In closing, let us bow and share together this blessing from our state chaplain. Our
Father God, we come today to dedicate this gift of a cutting from the Endicott pear tree, first planted on American soil in 1630. We thank you for all it represents of the dedication and tenacity of the American people to be planted, grow, and flourish with the ideals and blessings of liberty for which our ancestors sought in coming to this continent and then fought to ensure. We pray your blessing on this tree. Nourish it with your sun, water it with your rain, and let it grow tall and strong, and forever be a reminder of all our organization stands for. May all who see it remember for a moment the generations that have passed from that first planting to this one, and give thanks. In your precious name we pray. Amen.
Will you please put the marker into the tree, or next to the tree? Thank you for being here this morning and for our dedication of this newest addition to state headquarters. Thank you. Okay.